What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Hamilton Train podcast. If you are new here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton. I'm telling you, I've done this intro, I swear, like 20 times. I don't know what it is. Every time I keep either like stuttering real bad or like getting these like ADHD moments of like just blah, whatever it is. Or I'm just like, man, that sounded like ass. So either way, we are going to go through this and not stop, and we're just going to let it roll. So if it's all sorts of fucked up, that's fine. Actually, to be honest, I don't know why I'm wearing these headphones. I don't know if you're watching the YouTube video or not, but yeah, I don't know why I'm wearing these headphones because I don't need them right now. But anyway, I'm glad you're here. So first of all, welcome to the show. Whether you're new here, if this is your first episode, my name is Jared Hamilton, and I'm glad that you're here, and I really appreciate your time. But if you're also a podcast vet where you've been here all 227 episodes, I appreciate you as well, and thank you for returning. I don't take your guys' attention lightly because there's a lot of places on the internet that you could be, and there's a lot of really good podcasts out there. So the fact that you're listening to mine means a lot to me, and I really, really appreciate it. So now, before we get too far into today's episode, big thank you to the sponsors of the show. Sponsor number one is Flex Pro Meals. You guys know that like I've talked about before, my life is crazy and I run off convenience. It's all over the place. Like I thrive so much off convenience that it's interesting. We just moved, like I talked about in the last episode, but I have a gym that's like 30 seconds. I'm looking where I want to make my home gym, right? Well, or my home gym location, not a home gym, but like where I want to call home as far as a gym. Well, there's a gym literally 30 seconds from my house. There's like a chain gym that's like right around the corner from me where like, I'm telling you, I could be there in 30 seconds. It's so close. It's not my first choice, but to be honest, I might get a membership there just because it's so convenient. So that's how much my life thrives on convenience. You know what I mean? I'm guessing yours is probably the same way, right? Like you probably don't have an excess of just spare time laying around. You know, most people have kids and school and work and life and just stuff. So it makes it really kind of difficult to make this whole fitness thing work sometimes because it's easy to go through drive-thrus. It's easy to just, start over the next day. It's easy to cut corners. Well, that's one of the things that I love about Flex Pro is they help keep me from doing that personally. Cause like right now, guys, I'm in a phase of life and business where things are just crazy. I'm traveling more than I ever have. I'm doing more in business than I've ever done. We just bought a new house. Like we're still getting used to things. Like things are bonkers right now. Just being totally honest, things are all over the place. So, having Flex Pro in my fridge has been always a game changer just because like it keeps me from out of drive-thrus. It saves me time. It saves me money. It keeps my goals in check. The food's great. It's made by a chef. It's dialed in with wherever you need your calories at. The protein's there. Like it's so nice to have. So big thank you to them, and be sure to go check out their link below, flexpromeals.com. And they did want to give my podcast listeners a discount. So if you use the code Hamilton Trained, it's going to save you like 20%, and it's a good amount of money. So check them out. Then the next sponsor is First Form. I'm wearing one of their shirts, just because like I swear half my clothes are First Form clothes because they're like better than like Under Armour. It's fantastic. And they keep sending them to me, which I really appreciate. So, guys, I'm telling you, First Form is there's no other company like them, like in general, but let alone in the supplement space. Supplement space is extremely unregulated. And I'm not a huge supplement guy. Like you guys know, I'm not a big pusher of supplements or anything for that matter, but, I'm assuming just like me, cause you and I are probably a lot of like things aren't perfect, or, like we all could use more protein. We all could eat more plants. We all could recover better. We all could sleep more. We all could, get our stress better. Well, when you have all these things all over the place, it can leave some gaps in your program. It can leave some gaps in some stuff. So a lot of times having some supplementation can be extremely beneficial. I have a video link below of all the stuff that I take. But even if that's just like a really good protein powder to help keep your numbers up, or if that's like a joint compound to help keep your elbows and shoulders feeling good, because mine are trashed. Whatever it is, like it can be a multivitamin to make sure you're not missing anything because you don't eat as many plants as you probably should, So, but it's really hard to find who to trust, who's reliable, who's making the products, whose labels are accurate and things like that, what companies conduct themselves with integrity. Well, First Form checks all those boxes, and don't just take my word for it. You'll research for about 4 seconds yourself and you'll see that. And so I do have a free priority shipping link below. So if you're into that sort of thing, definitely go click on that and check out what they have. They have literally everything you could need. So be sure and go check them out. Now, today's episode of the podcast, we are in for a really cool talk because I'm interviewing my friend and Academy member, My 180 Academy, I should specify. Her name's Marjorie. She is a breath of fresh air. She's an absolute amazing person. Well, the reason why I wanted her to come on the podcast, because I want her to give you some hope, and I want her to hopefully maybe inspire you and show you that there is another life out there for you, even if you think it's too late for you. A lot of people think their situation is too far gone. And so that's why I wanted to bring on someone who can prove that's not the case. You know what I mean? So here's the thing. Me telling you you can do something, me telling you all the shit I tell you, half of you don't take it seriously because I'm coach. Like it's like it's like your mom telling you you're pretty. It's like, Mom, you're supposed to say that, you know? So I wanted to have someone come on here who has a situation probably just like yours, or who's just like you, who has come out on the other side and their life is totally different. So that's why I wanted my friend and Academy member, Marjorie, to come on and talk about what's gone through with her, what her life looks like right now. Because like I talk about in my content, the biggest thing that I want you to take home is that the key to getting where you want to be is the inner game, is your inner foundation. I know that's not sexy. I know that's not exciting, but I am here to change your life, not just hype you up. Because the truth is, everything you struggle with, like we've talked about before, has nothing to do with weight loss. If you binge eat, you can't fix that with more calorie restriction. If you know what to do, but aren't doing it, a better workout plan isn't the key. If you aren't disciplined and aren't consistent, like just working harder isn't the answer. You know what I mean? If you have a really terrible relationship with food or with the scale or with yourself, more calorie deficit doesn't fix that, right? If you're binge eating and emotional eating and sabotaging, more fitness stuff makes that stuff worse. So then the question is, what do you do? Because ironically, all those things are only triggered when you go to lose weight, right? So that's why the inner game strategies I talk about is the key. It's literally the key that unlocks your other life on the other side of this thing. So that's why I wanted Marjorie to come on, because she took that and ran with it, and she is thriving on another level. She went through my 180 Academy, which is only it's my course. If you're not familiar, it's my course on only the inner game. And I basically want her to show, and I'm going to have her walk you through her story, her struggles, and her triumphs on how she's living on a whole nother wavelength because she's fixed her inner game issues and she is absolutely happy. So I'm going to get her on the line. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I will talk to you in just a second. How are things?
Things, Jared, are really good. Spring is here. The weather's improving. Life is good. I was thinking the other day about your comment about how life is always chaos. And that is very, very true. Mm-hmm. But once you acknowledge that and accept it, you go with the flow and it's great. One of my favorite sayings is, the glass is neither half empty nor half full. The point is the glass is refillable.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Right.
I love that. That's such a good one.
So that's kind of my attitude towards life. So yeah, it's good.
It's funny along those lines. I can't remember who it was I was studying along this stuff. Authors around these things, they were basically saying like emotions even out of themselves are neither negative or positive. It's the meanings we associate with them. Because even like, let's say death, right? Let's say a loved one passes away, but like, and we're sad, but like the only reason we're sad is because we had a good life with them. It's why like people aren't sad when like murderers die. Cause like, yay, they're gone. They're not doing bad things anymore. But like when grandma and grandpa die, you know, it's like, so is the negative or is the emotion actually bad? Or is there such thing as a negative emotions, or are they just emotions? Then we assign meanings to things. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's cultural and familial and historical and experience. And but that's me talking. So as I say to my kids, I'm old and wise now. So looking back on it, I'm probably the oldest client that you guys have, actually.
I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting to say the least, but like, it's crazy. Cause a lot of people think like when it comes to changing and transforming and stuff, like they're too far gone or too late, but it's like all you are is one perspective shift away from a whole new life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I got divorced around, I don't know, 51-ish, I guess. And that was when I discovered weight training. And I had never been weight training until then.
Sure.
And so I've spent these last, closing up other things around my computer. it was wonderful. I just wish I'd discovered it sooner.
Yeah,
It's great.
it's amazing. The whole gambit is. Well, but I'm super glad that we could do this, because the reason I wanted to get you on is because, see, it's like when the coach shows like someone can do something, like everyone's like, you're the coach, you're supposed to say that. It's kind of like when, like, you know, if my mom says I look nice, it's like, Mom, I could have a thumb growing out my forehead and you're going to say I look nice. So, but when it's someone else, it's like one of my favorite things to do is get someone like a client that's been crushing and doing really well, and then just come on the podcast and talk about it, because it gives so much hope. And people literally be like, well, Jared, you always say this. And people are like, well, you're always going to say that. Or like, well, but my situation's different. But when someone comes on who is exactly like them, who has the same story or the same background or a worse scenario, and it gives so much hope to other people listening. And that's why, with how much you've been just crushing it, I wanted to just have a conversation about it.
That's nice of you to say I've been crushing it, because I don't always feel like I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
Here's how I'm crushing it, though. Here's what 180 Academy did for me. My background was, I started lifting weights, fell in love with it. Had a real life trainer. He was great. Taught me my way around the weight room. Awesome. He moved. Got another trainer. Life with her was great. She had zero nutritional background.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting strength happening, but man, was I packing on the pounds because I was eating more, because I was hungry all the time.
Sure.
So that didn't work. So then I went to my first trainer that got me into my Fitness Pal and macros and all of that sort of stuff. And that went really, really well, except I reached a point where I stalled and I wasn't compliant and things weren't moving. And he actually said to me, "Oh, I think you have an eating disorder. You should see a therapist."
No.
And I don't know if we've really had this talk, Jared, but you know, I've got a couple of university degrees, a great job. I like to think that I'm fairly well read, all the rest of it. And I was crushed when he said that to me.
Bet.
So I thought, do I? Maybe I do. I need to look this up. Like I like, it just kind of made everything in my world shift. And you think, and I see this with other people in our community on Facebook, we all know what to do. It's not rocket science.
Right.
But we all have different pieces of the puzzle, and it's trying to figure it all out together. And so then for a bunch of reasons, I finished with that trainer. I went with another trainer, amazing woman, loved my program. Things are going well. But again, the compliance wasn't there. And I was reaching the end of my time with her. And I was in your 3M training. I think it was back in January. And I don't know if you remember this, but you shared, or somehow the conversation turned around to cravings. And I shared how, you know, I eat healthy, I do so well, and then a craving hits me. And I have a very specific craving, very specific candy, a very specific potato chip, a very specific dip. And my trainer at the time said, "Oh, you just don't keep any of that in the house." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm a grown-ass woman. I get in my car and I drive and I buy it. Not having it in the house isn't going to stop me."
Yeah.
And you said, you go to the gas station or the convenience store or whatever every day, and you buy the smallest little packet. Do you know how hard it was to find the packet? They all sell the big ass 1,000-calorie packets, right? It's so hard to find them. And so every day I was going and I was buying my little packet of, it was Maynard's Peaches, because that was as close as what my craving was, and 230 calories. And my trainer had access to my Fitness Pal, my account on my Fitness Pal. And so she's like, "Marjorie, like, what are you doing? Why are you eating all this junk every day? Like these Maynard's Peaches, days after day after day after day. All
this junk, fucking 200 calories. Get out of here."
And I did not have the balls to say to her, "This is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it." And you know how my Fitness Pal has that quick add function? I started doing that instead. So I just started inputting the 230 calories.
That's awesome.
And my contract with her finished, and it was all good. That was a magical conversion, though, when you told me that, because that worked with the whatever that Neanderthal base part is of my brain. It got me past that concept of restriction and scarcity, and retrained me, because, of course, as many of us, that childhood treats to feel better, treats on Friday night. You turn into an adult and go, "Woohoo, I have my own paycheck, no parents around. I'm going to eat eat whatever I want every day.
Yep.
And I did. And 15 years later, in an unhappy marriage later, the pounds started packing on. And by then, all that emotional eating for a bunch of reasons is ingrained. So you taught me that for free. And you taught me the habit tracker for the 3M habits for free. And that was another game changer because we all tend, like not just the magic of it being one, 3 mind, mouth, movement habits, but when people I see converting it into a calendar format, I'm like, no, that's the trap I fall into, because your mind immediately goes to weekdays and weekend.
Yep.
You got to look at it a 10-day spread, and that immediately tells you at the end of 10 days, am I hitting 7 out of 10? Because we all know the magic is 8 out of 10 and above.
Yep.
And if you're consistently hitting 10 out of 10, time to change your habit. Go for something that stretches you a little bit. And thinking every day is Thursday. So when I finished that and I talked with your team about, coaching with you, and because you offer it all, right? Like you offer everything. And we were going through it and I was like, I'm feeling good about what I'm doing in the gym. I'm feeling good about my nutrition. I know how to set my macros. I know how to cut. I know how to gain. I know how to maintain. All that. I didn't know the mind game.
It's just this one piece, right?
This one piece that was missing. It just was like, it was like that. It was like I was playing a video game and I just couldn't get past that level, right? I needed the cheat code. I needed the walkthrough. And the 180 Academy was it. And I just devoured it. I just went through it and through it and through it and through it and through it. And so one of the things I did after that ended, and I'd started the 180 with you, was was ended with the other coach I was with. I realized that I'd been trying to diet, or I'd been in a diet mentality, albeit unsuccessful for the most part, for 2 years. So even though I was going away for holidays and I would track or whatever, in my mind, I was still in this diet mentality. So the first thing I did is I put myself into maintenance for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Holy cow, was that ever liberating.
Yeah.
I couldn't even half the time eat all the calories, but it was mentally liberating because I was no longer in this diet mindset and thinking, I'm smart. Why am I such a failure? Why can't I do this? What is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why am I frustrated and failing and such a loser at this game? And the maintenance was great. And then I went into a very modest caloric deficit and taking the lessons from 180. And another one that really, really was transformational for me was journaling.
Yeah, let's go. It's like the calorie deficit for your mind. It's like, it's crazy.
And you were the first person, like, I don't like to think that I'm thick in the mind, but maybe I am, because people have talked to me about journaling for so long, but everybody looks at it from a different point of view. And some people, they want the journaling prompts, and the way you put it together nailed it for me. No journaling prompts. Personally, I use scraps of paper throughout the house, and they immediately go in the shredder. My writing is illegible, and I heard somebody saying, no, don't do it on your phone. You have to get, pen and paper and scribble it out. The writing's illegible, and I'm just going through it. And people will talk about it being a brain dump. But you were the first person, and I've, been following people on Instagram and trainers and all that for years now. You were the first person, Jared, who actually illustrated how you do it and the process you go through. And you've done that a number of times. You've given examples. All right, so I think I'm feeling kind of sad today. I'm not really sure why. Like, why am I sad? What happened? Well, this happened. And how does that make me feel? And you just pour it all out and out and out and out. And I'd been meditating for a long time, and that was great for my blood pressure. But the journaling is what was like the trifecta of the journaling, the habit tracking, the getting eating that same treat every day till I got to the point where I really don't care if I have it. It doesn't trigger me, and it's not something I reach for. Not to say that I still don't. I'm not going to say I emotionally eat. I mean, of course I'm not perfect, but I still will go and enjoy those things. But have them mindfully. Might be over my calories for that particular day, but I'm at the 80% mark and above.
I love that.
And the magic is happening, right?
I love that. That's amazing. Well, we're emotional creatures, right? Like that's the thing is, too many people are like they're trying to. The issue is a lot of the content around this in the space and like the weight loss space of like emotional eating and stuff is it forgets the fact that we're emotional creatures, and it's like no, just get it out of the house because food is fuel. I'm like, we're not fucking robots or mice in a lab. We're literally emotional motherfuckers. So like trying to tell an emotional population to not be emotional when we're like driven by our emotions. It's how we buy things. It's how we choose to socialize the way we do, to say, don't be emotional and just use food as fuel. I'm like, you're full of shit. Get the fuck out. So that's why like we can't remove the emotional piece of it. We just can't suppress with food. That's the difference. We can't suppress the emotions. You know, we have to be emotional, but.
Yes. And I love food and I love to cook.
As you should.
One of my other challenges was the first, actual trainer that I hired was like, do you want me to put together a meal plan for you? And it was absolutely, the stereotypical chicken, rice, broccoli sort of thing.
Bodybuilder vibes.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
No, can't do that. There's way more in my rainbow of food options than those things. And the socializing and the celebration, like when you think of so many cultures, I think all cultures,
all of it, yeah,
build celebration of community around food, and it's the breaking of the bread, the sharing of the wine, the plates in front of us. So how do you incorporate that? But the emotional part of it is absolutely key. And the other thing I've been thinking of is what the obstacle is that a person faces changes over time. So for me, when I first started, it was just minor caloric deficit, tracking my food. And when you're significantly overweight, those minor changes, it comes off really quickly. Right. But I think one of the reasons I stalled was because I hadn't addressed that emotional aspect of it, and enough weight had come off that I was no longer going to be, and I hadn't created those habits, and I hadn't addressed the emotional eating.
No, I love that. That makes such a difference. See, so I'm curious. So for you, what was the biggest, what was the moment for you where it was like, okay, there's more to this than just the physical? That's the problem. Like I see most people, it's like whenever I do talks on this stuff, I'm like, my only thing, whether anyone ever pays me a dime, I just want everyone to realize the key is the inner game. The key is the inner game. I don't care whether you go through the academy or not, or if you, whatever. I just want you to realize and be so convicted that like, okay, the key is the inner game. Where did that happen for you? I
don't want to admit to this because I'm a woman filled with pride. That hit me a number of years ago. That probably hit me 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. And I was searching and searching and searching and frustrated and feeling like a failure because the people I hired, the professionals I spoke to, they all talked about the inner game, but nothing that they were suggesting to me was resolving my issues. Being accountable, I was accountable, but I wasn't compliant. Sure. Why wasn't I compliant? Because I was emotionally eating, and I was not having the 80% success of compliance over the course of a week. So why was I emotionally eating? Why couldn't you just stop? Because being told to, when you have a craving, go outside for a walk, or interrupt that cycle, right? All those things. And I would do all of that, but the craving didn't go away. And as you know,
probably got worse.
It would just build over time. So then you end up having potato chips, dip, and jelly beans for dinner. So you don't go over your calories too much. You're not really hungry. I mean, you're hungry, but not overly hungry. And I never felt shame over that. I always owned it. And it wasn't necessarily a case of the fuckets, but that was an emotional response of eating to whatever was going on in my life at the time. And it could be, work, kids, personal issues, whatever. But I would sit there and go, wow, I'm fucking pathetic. Like, why can I not deal with this? What am I doing wrong? I meditate, I do the walk, I do the gym. Why are other people able to resolve these issues and I can't? And so when you ask me, when did that start? Like, I've known about it for a long, long time.
Sure.
The question is, how come nobody else tells us what these answers are, Jared?
And to be honest with you, I don't know either. Like, literally, like that's the thing. It's why, like, I get so, like, to be honest with you, I knew I was onto something because I don't, like, I talk about the fire pit moment a lot, where, like, and then I was scared to start talking about this stuff, like this inner game mesh with weight loss, because, like, no one talks about it, or no one talks about it at a tactical and practical level. And then I felt totally out of my realm. And it's totally like different, in especially in the diet culture that I'm in, right? Well,
that we're all in.
Right. But, like, even like, especially professionally, I'm like, fuck, I've got all these other coaching colleagues who think I'm crazy. They think I'm like I'm getting told, stay in your own lane, stop talking about that. But I'm like, no, there's a space no one's talking about, because you have, like, inner work way over here, like therapy, mindfulness, inner game stuff, journaling, meditation, and you got diet culture. And it's like, and where it hit me hardest was I noticed this before we had, like, a specific system. I noticed this with clients first. I was like, wait, I got all these people come in to do coach with me and the team. But, like, their issues aren't weight loss, but all these issues like binging, emotional eating, sabotage, all this stuff. I'm like, it's triggered by weight loss, but we can't fix it with more weight loss. Like, if someone binge eats, I can't say restrict your calories more. So I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? And then I knew I was onto something when therapists started hiring me. Like, that was when I like, honest to God, I feel like my like universal sign, because I was like, fuck, I'm not supposed to do this. I was a lot of internal resistance, and I'm like, this is not where I should be at. I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm like, I don't know. Am I out of my realm? But then all of a sudden, therapist after therapist after therapist started hiring me. And I'm like, wait a second. There's something, and it was working. And I'm like, there's something here. So I dug it deeper, started studying all these gurus with all this stuff even more. And then all of a sudden there are these cases like this where it's like, because what we're doing, like with the food relationship stuff, with, like, going to the gas station every day, all this stuff, we're developing new neural pathways.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and so I'm like, wait a second. So we got to teach the body teaches the mind what to think. So we got to force the brain into realizing nothing bad's going to happen. Because the thing with half of this is, like, that we talk about, like, the fear of heights, right? Like, and the reason you've been so successful is you've been coachable, number one, but then you have been a professional executor. You just say, I'm gonna do it. And even in the past with other coaches, that's what you've done. You just didn't have the right answers, but you're like, I'll do whatever you say. I'll fucking do it. It just hasn't worked out. But because you've trusted the process, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to go to the gas station every day and have the food that I struggle with. I'm going to, every time I want to emotionally eat, I'm going to journal instead, or all these different things. It's because you've put in the work and done that. But then because all the good shit happens, your body realized you're not going to die. And then you have irrefutable proof in front of you. Then your brain goes, okay, we're good. It's crazy.
And your sleep gets better. And you're happier.
Yeah.
And then you start moving more. And then everything kind of starts going click, 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 click. I have one funny thing to tell you about going to the gas station and buying the treats, because you say, do it for 30 days.
Every day.
Or however long, do it every day. So after day whatever, it was getting hard to find those little packets. I would go to like 4 different convenience stores, whatever, couldn't find them. And I ended up at, 5 miles away to London Drugs. And they had 11 of them in a box on sale, and that was all they had. And I thought, like, I don't want to be coming back here every day. Like,
right?
Can I do it? Can I do it? And I bought all 11 of them, and I put them in a box, and I put them in the cupboard. And I was far enough along in the process then that I would have one every day, and I didn't awesome. Go and overindulge. And I laughed, and as I was going through them, I was like, "Ugh, do I have to eat another packet today?" Ugh.
Right?
And it's really, really funny. And that has allowed me now to be at the stage of where I do want something. I'll think to myself, is this a craving? Am I restricting myself on this? Is this a temporary response to something that's going on that I should, kind of think about and process? See if I still want it tomorrow. Now, see if I still want it tomorrow, and people talk about that. But see if I still want it tomorrow only works when you're at this level.
Yeah, that's an advanced tactic. Absolutely.
That's an advanced tactic, right? You can't be in the cycle of all this emotional eating and doing those things. And so I think that's part of what some of the industry professionals get wrong is they teach some of that stuff, and it's out of order because it doesn't work for all, you have to do these things in the right way.
Well, and that's why I think a lot of the well, it's two sides. I think a lot of the industry advice around this stuff is fucking trash. Where it's like, oh, I don't like the whole concept of I don't need that is like my biggest pet peeve in the world. That's a whole other tangent. But especially with the food relationship stuff, like with I'll get the trigger foods out of the house or all this stuff. It's like there's so much backed up that has a problem with that. The fact that like we're labeling foods as trigger foods and expecting to have great relation. It'd be like me just instead of calling my wife baby or Shelby, what I usually call my wife, either baby or her name, be like me calling her bitch. And then expecting to have a great relationship. Hey, bitch, will you go make me a sandwich? Yeah. Hey, bitch, will you go grab my keys out of my backpack? Like, I could be the most kind-hearted husband, but there's a whole different level of meanings. If I say, hey, baby, could you go grab me my water bottle real quick because I'm a little bit busy versus, hey, bitch, could you go grab me my water bottle because I'm a little bit busy? Like, and then expecting to have a good relationship. But then, especially with the food stuff, most people stop at that. They go get the foods out of the house and that's it. And it's like, that's like the most avoidance answer ever. But that's the problem with all of this stuff. Like you see people that's like their game plan, or it's like, we'll just be more mindful. It's like, well, what the fuck does that even mean?
Exactly.
You know, or like, well, just listen to your body. Like, no, my body wants me to binge eat. That is an intuitive response. Your intuition is just fucked.
Yes.
So that's why we have to take a step back and overhaul all of this, even if that means taking a break from traditional weight loss. Now, for you, did you notice one of the things I was wanting to ask you? Did you notice because you fix you at the foundational level, right? Like, because you don't just like fix your relationship food. You're changing your stress responses, how you view yourself, your ability to show up for yourself. These high level things now. Have you noticed other areas in your life are better now?
Yes.
Love that.
Yes. So it's tax time.
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh, I just hate having to deal with that. And it was really funny because I don't know how many days ago I ended up journaling about that. Next morning when I woke up, went, yeah, whatever. Pulled it all together, sent it off, done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like I don't know how it is for other people. For me, I don't think I even appreciated I'm going to call it anxiety. Like I hate like some of these words, like when we talk about binging, craving, trigger foods, emotional eating, those are very impactful words. Sure. And I'm not sure that they mean like disorders, like eating disorders. I'm not sure that we're all talking the same language because
I don't think we are either.
Right. So talking like anxiety, I don't take that word lightly, but buzzing in my brain. And when you start putting these things into play, just like your body just kind of sighs and relaxes. Mm-hmm. And like I said, your sleep is better, your quality of life is better, you're handling stressors more easily.
Which is everywhere.
Everywhere. Going back to you saying life is chaos, that never changes. But how do you address these things? And I was thinking about, because I think part of my challenge has been that I'm an overthinker, which is probably why some of these, because I laughed when you said to me, I'm coachable, I just do what I was told. Obviously, I fucking didn't, because otherwise I would have been compliant and lost all that weight. So thank you for saying that, but I'm not sure I necessarily...
Well, at least you did it when you got to me, though. Like when you're like, you execute like a motherfucker on my end. Like...
Why do you think so? Where was I going with that? Oh, I know what I was going to say. I think it's important to be aware that you don't substitute one coping mechanism that's unhealthy for another unhealthy coping mechanism. And so I've been kind of mindful of that, because shit, life would be so much easier if it came with a manual. Yeah. It's really hard to... I am 58 years old, and to think that I'm now getting all this stuff together in my life it's pretty interesting. And
well, to be honest, though, most people I see, the vast majority, take this to their grave. Like, could you imagine another 20, 30 years never making progress in this and being stuck still? You know what I mean? Like, that's a long time to like even like a lot of people will do, they're like, oh, I'm like 59, I'm 60, fuck. It's like, I still think that's like you just bought 30 more quality years of your life is what
Absolutely.
you did.
And I was quoting you this morning to one of my coworkers.
Uh-oh. Did you say fuck?
No. Oh, well, yeah, of course. But we were talking about, I was quoting about one of your recent chats where you said, when you started your own business and you had unsuccessful people wanting to give you advice, why would you take business advice from somebody who's not successful in business? Why would you take weight loss or healthcare advice from somebody who's not successful in that? And I have a number of friends, particularly males, who are obese, have tried different things. And I work really hard, and you know me well enough to know it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut and not give gratuitous advice, because I just watch them try and fail. And I'm like, baby, you just keep on trying, and either you'll figure it out or you'll be open to having a heart-to-heart talk with me about kind of what options are.
Yeah.
Because there's that other idea that you can't, people don't, what is that saying? When the people is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, right? So I see people thinking, well, I'm just going to do intermittent fasting. And I said to my friend, okay, and then what? Oh, well, then I'll just eat healthy afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah. And right. I mean, I didn't say it doesn't work. And in my
You're
mind,
nicer than I am. I would have been like, okay, you're fucking wrong.
Yeah, right. You haven't changed the habits.
Yeah.
Whatever. But people have got to want to do that themselves.
Yeah.
And it's hard. But yes, we have an entire society of this, and interesting to see with our kids, and the language we use with children, and the restrictive language, the celebratory language.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. So I had a case the other day on a call. It wasn't even the restrictive language. It was a restrictive behavior. And this is what happened. The lady was applying for coaching. So we were talking, and she's like, Jared, I listened to all your stuff. I don't restrict. I don't do this. And I know exactly what to do. And I was like, she's like, I even teach my kids this. Like, I even teach my kids what you talk about. And then my daughter called me out, and she's like, okay, mommy, you say you can have cake, but why aren't you having cake with me? Her daughter literally, like, the mom was saying the stuff, and the little 5-year-old, it was like her birthday. And she's like, no, honey, it's okay to have cake. Because she's like, I don't want to teach my kids, this restrictive stuff. But she's like, but the mom doesn't practice what she preaches, or it's like parenting things are caught, not taught. So she's like, her 5-year-old called her out. She's like, so why aren't you having cake? Why don't you have pasta with us? And the mom's like, what do you do? And then that's now it's, kids are smart little fuckers. Like,
so do you think it was a disconnect for her, that she truly thought she was engaging and participating?
I think there is a level of, and I think there's a level of unconscious restriction. I think there's such a stigma around weight loss, where someone's like, yeah, everything's okay in moderation. Right. They say that to themselves, but then their actions, they still unconsciously avoid sugar. They unconsciously only eat chicken and rice, or they won't have wine. They're only drinking water, or whatever the case is. It's why, like, I think it's in the craving module, either the craving or the food relationship module in the academy. I talked about, I said, I want you to go out of your way to have the food you want. Like, because otherwise, because we've been so indoctrinated into bullshit diet culture, too often people will unconsciously restrict. They're like, yeah, I know. They like consciously, they know they can have anything they want, but unconsciously they're still buying everything fat-free, no carbs, and only blandless chicken. And they don't put cheese on anything. You know what I mean?
I was invited, I was tagged. I don't know. One of my Facebook friends is doing a 20-day sugar-free
I fucking hate
detox,
that.
and they tagged me, and old me would just have scrolled on by. New me responded basically, ha ha ha, are you fucking kidding me? Have you looked at me in the life that I lead? I would never give up sugar.
Yeah.
But, it's no, that isn't going to happen. Or another one I was thinking about, going back to the diet culture in terms, is the idea of having 3 meals a day plus a snack. And I was thinking about that whole word snack, that I don't think about a snack. I eat food throughout the day.
Yep.
And some are in bigger quantities and some are in smaller quantities, but I don't label this consumption of food at this time of the day as a snack. And I was thinking, and why don't I? And I think part of me is because that's the whole after school snack, or the pre-bedtime snack. And so does that mean certain food is eaten or not eaten, or whatever? Like I pretty much just eat when I'm hungry. And go from there. But I don't want to think about foods as snack foods. Like, to me, it's just food. I worry more about am I eating my calories and am I getting my protein in?
Yeah. It's interesting the meanings we automatically associate with. Like if I said, what's breakfast food? Everyone goes bacon, eggs, hash browns, and pancakes and waffles. Versus like, or I would go to my grandma, we'd go to my grandma's little, we'd go to my grandma's house and for dinner. And she's like, we're having breakfast for dinner. And it was because she wanted to make pancakes and bacon and, biscuits and gravy and all that stuff. But it's like, it's funny. Like we have that, not that it's a good or a bad thing, but like we have all these associations with food.
We do.
And it goes back to like the good food, bad food, cheap food, it's like, there's so much when we start moralizing it with meanings, like these are good food and bad food. This is my diet food and not food. Or my normal food. Or now like when like you'll see like in like the diet aisle at the store, lots of guilt free. It's like, well, that implies we need guilt over here,
Exactly.
So like these things through repetition of unconscious patterns, it's no wonder people have horrendous relationships with food. Because imagine if we had all of these things going on, but it was with your partner. Like this is the partner away kit. This is the whatever. And it's like, like if I had a cheat day with my wife, it doesn't mean I can go fuck the mailman. You know what I'm saying? Like if we put this on the same playing field as everywhere else in our life, it wouldn't make sense. So then it makes like me question, like, then why are we doing this with food and with weight loss and with transformation and these kinds of things,
And that's another interesting thing, the idea of a cheat meal.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about, and I totally subscribe to this. I don't believe in calling it a cheat meal.
No.
And for all the reasons that you just addressed. And I also treat every day as Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. Yes, I love
right?
Yeah, that's my favorite right there.
And I remember when, years ago when I did Weight Watchers, I can't remember what day weigh-in was. It might have been, it doesn't matter. But the next day, I was like, and I'd go to town and I'd just eat whatever I wanted because I had a whole other week before weigh-in came in. And so there's that sort of mentality about your check-in day and being really loosey-goosey the next day or the whole weekday weekends. And, whereas no, every day is Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes, we have special occasions, but just every day is Thursday and treat it that way as we go along.
Yeah, we have to really take a step back and look at all the meanings we have associated with our language or with with anything. Like if you put cake in front of me, or not me, but let's say in front of a normal person, right? Like, cause I'm a weird psycho. They say that's bad.
Who we know and love, but that's okay.
But they'll say that's bad. Or that's not weight loss food or whatever, but there's so much wrong with that. And it's no wonder you're now held captive by results you generate in that state, or that just things you can't enjoy. That's the problem. Because then this is the hard part. If you achieve in that state of fuckery, if you achieve the weight loss with shitty food relationships while sabotage is happening, somehow while binging, well, now you are held captive by your results. Because if you starved yourself to get to, or gave up wine and date night to lose your 30 pounds or whatever, well, now in your brain, you're like, fuck, I have to do this to keep it up forever. And then you'll eventually break and rebound like a motherfucker,
Which is why so many bikini competitors in the bodybuilding community end up having eating disorders because their relationship with their food is so poor. Which brings me to another interesting topic is the number of people I know, including my doctor, who look at me and go, well, you look really great. So why are you dieting? Why are you trying to lose weight? And I always say, thank you for telling me that I look great. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, but this isn't necessarily the body shape that I want. Mm-hmm. So I still have goals and changes I want to make. And who are you comparing me to? So, right? Because that's a big part of it. Do I compare myself to others? I hope not. But, people don't always appreciate, especially women, they think of fat loss, weight loss, and just fitting into a smaller size of clothing. Whereas I think of it more as measurements. Yeah. And, I want more shapely glutes. Yep. Or I want my quads to be more defined. Or I want for me, when I started strength training and I started getting some traps happening up there, my shoulders and biceps, and I was like, oh, that is so flippin' sexy. I love it.
I love it.
So for me, and I don't really have this conversation with people, but for me, I'm like, well, yeah, part of the reason I want to lose more inches is because this fall I want to go into a gain phase and put on muscle mass because I want to reshape my body.
Yeah.
people, the general populace doesn't understand that conversation. They don't understand the conversation that you can shape your body and have muscle growth. All they know is weight loss or being obese.
Well, so this is a big, I think I may have talked about this in the, either the sabotage module or the identity module, whereas I'm really glad you brought that up, because the problem is if we take on the identity of a dieter, which when you have the identity of a dieter, you're not open to gaining muscle. You're not open to getting strong. You're not open to maybe a maintenance phase while you go through a rough time in life where you're not, things aren't conducive for fat loss, whatever. But the problem is if we have our identities are a dieter, like I was speaking with someone the other day, she was applying for coaching and she was telling me about her history with like Weight Watchers. And I go, so what? And I asked her, I said, has anyone ever taught you how to like keep the weight off once you lose the weight? And she goes, I thought you just keep dieting. That's what Weight Watchers told me. And it's like, you just keep taking calories and points lower. And I'm like, that's the worst exit. I said, how do you feel about that for an exit strategy? And she's like, terrible, but it's all I know. I go, okay, we're going to fix that. But like, that's the problem is when this is a big reason for sabotage. And hopefully some people's eyes open when I say this is if your identity is a dieter, and let's say your goal is to lose the 50 pounds and you lost your 50 pounds and now you don't need a diet, but your identity is a dieter, you will unconsciously gain the weight back to find a reason to diet again. So this is one of the biggest issues whenever like we take on people who have been dieting. They're what I call part of the dieting for decades club. We've got to do so much work around the identity because because the mind psychology teaches us that the mind craves the familiar. Well, you've got decades of familiarity around struggle with weight loss and you're always on a diet. If I walk to anywhere in my city, and I bet if I went to 9 out of every 10th person are on a diet right now. Right? If I went to Walmart right now or the store and I'm like, hey, are you on a diet? Raise your hand if you're on a diet. Everyone would go raise their hand because everyone's on a diet perpetually, but no one gets results. Or if they lose a little bit of weight, they gain it back because psychology teaches us that our unconscious mind protects our identity. So if you have the identity of a dieter or a fat piece of shit or whatever these fucked up identities are, now you have a new reality that like, let's say your identity is I'm unworthy and you make some money and lose some weight. Well, that is totally goes against that. So now you're going to find a reason to sabotage it. And this is a big cycle why everyone's stuck in a cycle.
Yes. Recognizing what, yeah, absolutely agree.
It's crazy.
Absolutely agree. And that was why, or part of the reason when I was going through all of that, thinking, why am I the odd duck out? Why do none of these suggestions from all these people work for me? Like I said, I never felt the shame, but I was like, why am I a failure? Why am I a failure? Why can I not do this? What is wrong with me? How am I broken? What is wrong with my identity? How do I see myself? And, that was, I felt very alone. I felt very alone in that world. Yeah, because it was like I wasn't speaking the right language.
Yeah, it's crazy. It makes a huge difference. It's crazy.
Really, really, really does. Yeah.
Now, let me ask, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
You're good. Go ahead.
No, I can't remember what I was going to say now. It's fine.
Well, one thing I was wanting to hear your opinion on, I know my opinion on it, and I'm sure we have a similar one, but I'm curious your specific thoughts. The biggest pushback I get when I'm talking to people about these things, like say they're ready to lose weight because they've been trying to lose weight as fast as possible for like ever. And I'm like, we need to take a step back. You need to get your inner game in check. We got to fix, relationships with food, relationships with yourself, all that stuff. And this happens every time. They go, well, I'll do that after I lose the weight, or like I'm in such a hurry. I'll like focus on the inner game stuff after I lose it because I really need to get into a smaller pant size, or I've got vacation coming up, and they want to separate it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we are all afraid of therapy, and we're all afraid of cognitive behavior therapy, and we're all afraid of facing the inner work because you know what? It is fucking hard work. Yeah. And we don't want to have to turn that big bright spotlight onto the inner workings of our mind and deal with whatever shit is there. It's time consuming, it's emotionally draining, it's enlightening. You can no longer be in denial. You have to face it. You have to deal with it. And it's so much easier to think, oh, this is a very narrow subject. I'm going to eat certain foods for a certain period of time and go to the gym so many times a week. I'm going to lose the weight. And that's what it takes to do it. And all this, airy fairy, mushy gushy emotional stuff over here, I'll deal with that another day.
Yeah.
It's why people stay in crappy marriages. It's the exact same reason. The familiarity is comfortable, and addressing issues takes effort, and our psyche is afraid of change.
Yeah.
And we change is scary, change is hard.
No,
and
absolutely.
I don't know. So does that square away with your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, yeah, no, 100%, because I think it's like people forget, and it's usually followed by this is when people go, well, I don't want just inner game progress. I want fat loss progress. But the problem is we're talking about the same thing. Like, it's why I give the analogy of like if you were having a custom home built, like let's say that was your dream to build this whatever specific house out in the country or whatever, and you're having a team of builders do their thing. And you go on every day to check on it because you're getting excited. But because it's a big house, you're going to have a freaking huge foundation, right? But you wouldn't be upset and go, oh, they haven't started on my house. They've only started on the foundation. It's like, no, last time I checked, foundations are part of houses. Yeah, the foundation might be under the dirt, but it's rather important if you ask me, right? But you don't separate, but no one would separate. You'd be like, oh no, they laid the footers today. Oh, they added more cinder block walls. Oh no, they added all the rebar that goes in the foundation. Okay, now they're getting ready to put walls up, like you in excitement. But in the world of weight loss, people go, oh, I haven't lost any, let's say your hairstylist goes, oh my gosh, you look so great. Have you lost weight? And then you go, no, I've only quit binge eating. I guess I recognize sabotaging patterns. And you know what? Don't feel guilty when I go over my calories anymore, but no, I haven't lost any weight. And they say that in a negative way because most people separate weight loss progress and inner work progress. But when you're like, not to sound really, really negative, but when you're in a really bad situation and you're doing all the binging, the sabotaging, emotional eating, all that stuff, like you're in a really bad spot, and inner work progress is always fat loss progress. It's like when I go to therapy on my own, like it's benefiting my marriage, right? We may not even talk about my wife in therapy, right? But me working on myself is marriage progress, right?
Absolutely.
Me working on myself is business progress. Me working on myself is weight room progress. But the issue is most people are so hyper fixated on, I've got to lose as much weight as possible.
As quickly as possible.
As much as possible, as quickly as possible. And anything that gets in the way is bad. But it's like, ironically, the people who have been struggling to lose weight the longest have been trying to do it the fastest. So maybe we need to take a step back and do the inner game stuff. That's my biggest thing.
I agree. And I wonder if people tend to treat it like learning a new skill. Like, I don't know, learning to play basketball, or I don't know if I've told you this, I've taken up skeet trap sporting clay shooting.
Let's go. Hell yeah.
So I've been doing it now for 6-8 months. Love it. I'll send you a video later on. But that's a very specific skill set. So it doesn't really need a lot of, and it's a physical skill. It doesn't really need inner work for me to learn that physical skill. And I think people think of losing weight as the same thing. They're very detached from it, and they just see it as an activity, like learning a new skill, learning a new hobby. And it doesn't matter that it's taken them 25 years to end up with where they are now and all the decisions that they've made over those 25 years. They don't see that. They just see, oh, tell me what I need to eat for the next, 3 months so I can lose 15 pounds or whatever it is. And there's a very much a disconnect. And I also truly, truly, truly believe, from people that I talk to, we all have our ego in the way.
Sure.
And we all think, I can do this on my own. I'm a smart person. This isn't complicated. I know what I need to do. I'm just going to count my calories and do this. And maybe I'll do intermittent fasting for a while. And maybe I'll only drink on weekends, and, or I'm going to start going, cycling every day, and that's going to take care of it, whatever. But I don't need help. I can do this on my own.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think a big piece of it is, I think there is a lack of awareness around what the actual struggle is. Like, people think, like, let's say they binge eat. So like every person I know that binge eats, their first inclination is to actually give themselves more rules, right? They struggle with binge eating, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to cut calories lower. You know what? I obviously need to work out more. Versus if we think about it logically, we go, well, why am I binging? Oh, it's because of restriction. Oh, it's emotionally driven. Let's take care of that stuff. That's the way, like, the logical mind works around it. It's just like if my car all of a sudden made really weird noises when I turned left, I wouldn't say, I better turn the radio up really loud. Or, you know what? I guess need to drive faster. I need to turn harder. I would go, oh, I bet there's a mechanical problem for the mechanisms that make it go left. I'm going to take this to a mechanic. But like the problem is when it comes to weight loss, because it's so impatiently driven, it's so societally driven, and it's so emotionally driven, we think the answer is just more effort. It's why my biggest pet peeve with coaches is they just say, "Oh, you obviously don't want it bad enough," and it's like, no.
Oh yes,
it's
I hate
like
that.
now.
Yes.
I think, don't get me wrong. I think there are some people who truly don't. I think a lot of people think it would be nice to have the goal and they don't truly want it. But I think the majority, it's the answer is not work harder. The answer is not what's your why more. No, the answer is you're fucking restricting, or the answer is you're fucking impatient, or the answer is your expectations are off, or the answer is you're suppressing your emotions with food. The answer is you got some inner child shit that you never let go of that we got to do some work around. But
that was me, because I thought, well, I'm obviously not motivated enough. I'm obviously not disciplined enough. I obviously don't want it badly enough. I'm a failure. Those were totally where my thoughts were coming from. And it's that's tough. And the other pet peeve I have about this culture is people say, I'm not compliant, but I want you to reduce my calories.
Yeah.
And that's like, well, if you can't be compliant on 2,100 calories a day, why would we think you'd be more compliant on 1,850, right?
Right.
And yet that's the go-to is more restriction, more rules, try harder. And, it's very interesting how that works.
No, absolutely. I think like I said, as a whole, I think it's an entire lack of awareness where it's like, and it's just not, especially in the space of fitness and weight loss and dieting, it's not the normal. Like the normal is somehow still back in the 70s where carbs somehow store fat. Versus like, oh, you emotionally eat, let's totally journal about it. Like it still blows my mind that like these things aren't as mainstream, especially with how much like mental health is mainstream now, thankfully. Like therapy, like my friends or people, like when like I meet someone new and we talk about therapy, it's not like the stigma anymore that like, let's say I go to therapy and my wife goes to therapy or whatever. It's not stigma. It's not stigma. It's not as stigma as much anymore, but the whole concept of like, oh yeah, I emotionally eat, so I'm going to go sit with it. It's still like, what the fuck? You need to just cut more calories. Like it's unfortunately it's still at that spot. So, but hopefully we'll be fixing
because
that soon.
People don't equate, because everybody eats. So people think it's normal. People think it's just a given,
right?
And that we should all be able to somehow adjust it, and that these issues aren't related to what's going on between our ears.
Everyone thinks it's a black and white thing where it's like the whole food is fuel, food is just this, and it's true. It's not. It's like it's even like, I mean, very few things actually in this life are black and white. You know what I mean? Like when I try to always tell people, like whenever like you go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, food is only fuel. And I'm like, that's literally like saying your house is only shelter from the storm. The last time I checked, everyone's got pretty shelves. Everyone's got paint on their walls. Everyone has a TV in their living room. Everyone has a bed. Everyone has drapes that don't need to be there. Everyone's got trim around their door to make it look nice.
Yeah.
But like if your home is purely shelter from the storm, then you don't need that stuff. But it's not your house is shelter from the storm. It's home. It's where you raise your family. It's where you connect with your spouse. It's where you create memories. And like the list goes on. Yes. But like one of the functions is, it's nice when it rains. But food is the same thing here that people don't, that really need to hammer that home is food is so much more than fuel. Like, it is that, but it's also how we experience, how we celebrate, how we entertain, how the whole 9 yards. It's the same thing, you know?
And that was something I'm very sociable, and COVID kind of helped, but that's really tough. Think about how many times you go out in a week to eat.
Yeah.
And so how do you navigate that when you're trying to be mindful of your caloric choices?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really hard. And you have to make some hard decisions there too, and pre-plan. And then that's when kind of the fuck it's come in. It's too much work. Life shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah.
I'll just do an extra spin class, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But Jared, if I hadn't found you, and I was thinking about this, knowing that we were going to be talking today, I was thinking about this. Like, if I hadn't discovered you, it'd be really shitty.
I appreciate that. That's so kind of you.
It would be really, really, really shitty. Absolutely. It's very, very, very lucky.
I appreciate that. Even like, because I'm no different than anyone else, right? Like negative thoughts still creep in, and I still have self-doubt and things like that. And it's stories like that like it means a lot. Like, Cause like even to this day, like, you know, I'm not a superhuman, right? So like I still get thoughts of like, man, am I actually making a difference, or is this actually helping that many people or whatever? So, so the fact that you say those things is really,
it does.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
And I also think too that we have to give ourselves enough grace to realize we talk a lot about progress not being linear.
Right.
Life isn't linear.
Right.
And I totally expect that there will be times when I will still grab that bag of potato chips and my hell of a good dip and my thing full of jelly beans, and away we go. Those things happen, but as time goes on, it's less and less and less, and further apart. And that's it's not an on-off switch, like you said. It's not black and white.
Yeah,
there's growth, and everything else comes along, and it's part of it. And then I get excited thinking, ooh, what will I do next?
Yeah.
What will I talk to Jared about next? What will the next adventure be? What will the next challenge be?
Every new level comes with it a new devil every time. It does.
I love that. Every new level comes with a new devil. Okay, I'm going to remember that, because life is not static. There's always something happening, right? So it's a big part of it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Marjorie, this has been awesome. Thank you again so much for doing this. I know this is going to help a lot of people, and I'm beyond proud of you. You're a breath of fresh air and have amazing energy, and I'm just grateful to have been able to help a little bit. So
back at you, my friend. I enjoy the community so much. I really, really do. Great team. Love the energy. And your social media presence, things you've been doing there. I mean, that was what I think first caught my attention.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You put so much effort into it. You really do. And it's quality material.
Thank you so much.
That's the other part that makes it magical.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Marjorie. So I'll talk to you soon, okay?
See you on the flip side.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
And welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of the podcast. If you made it this far, I really, really appreciate it. I know this is a longer episode, but like I said before, I really hope after hearing Marjorie's story, it gave you hope and it gave you some insight on like, wow, I really do need to tackle my inner game. I really do need to take this to another level and really get on the other side of this stuff. Because again, like we talked about, the answer is not more fitness. The answer is not more complex stuff. The answer is not more dieting. The answer is probably, to be honest, taking a step back and not focusing on weight loss as much and focus on fixing your inner game. Because if you don't, like, you're just going to keep on this cycle. And I don't want you to suffer anymore. And I want you to be truly happy. And you'd be shocked at what just focusing on your inner game for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months will do. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I also want to give you that opportunity, because if you know what to do and you feel good with this, I want you to run with it and be so fucking successful. It's unreal. And I apologize if you can hear all these reminders. Now, here's the thing though. If you have no idea how to do that, I do have an opportunity for you. And this is only for you. I'm not putting this anywhere else. I'm putting this in the podcast show notes. If after listening to that and you're like, wow, I want to have what Marjorie has, and you want to go through the same thing she did, I am going to leave a special link for my 180 Academy below. You've seen what it did for her and countless others, to be honest. And I want to cut you a deal, and I'm a big fan of action takers. So I'm going to give you a special offer below if you're one of those people who are like, okay, I want to do this. So here's what's going to happen. My academy is normally $2,000. It's a one-time fee. It's normally that much, but I'm not going to charge you that much for it because you listened to this episode. Because like I said, I value your attention. This is a really long podcast episode. So if that's you and you're like, okay, I want to change this and I don't know how, and you want to go through my academy, I'm going to give you $1,000 off. Like, this is the price that I sold it when I launched it originally at pre-sale. So that's a huge discount. So I'll leave a special link below where you can get my academy for just $997. Like I said, I'm going to give you an entire $1,000 off because it's normally a $2,000 product. But the cool thing is I'm going to throw in some other stuff. So because I appreciate you and I really reward action takers and I want you to change your life. So I'm going to throw quite a few other things in here with this. So number one, you're going to have lifetime access to the academy, which means you are going to be able to go through the modules as many times as you want. There's not a time limit. You go through it at your own pace. But then also this means when over the course of time, when I add more modules to it, and I already have modules I want to add to it, like since the thing has birthed, if you will, you'll get automatic access to those. So let's say this time next year, let's say it's $4,000. Well, because I've added so much more, many more resources to it, you're going to be locked in and you're not going to ever have to pay anything more for it. Like, it's grandfathered in. It's a one-time investment. That's it. So, but then I'm also going to give you lifetime access check this out, lifetime access to my paid mentorship group. So my Psychology of Fat Loss mentorship group is normally a couple $100 a month. So you're going to pay like $2,400 a year for that. Now, because you went through or going through the academy or getting everything here, I'm going to bundle a lifetime access with that totally for free. Like, again, people pay $2,400 a year just to have access to my paid mentorship group where there's like live Zoom calls with me, workouts every month, nutrition help, the whole 9 yards. But I'm going to give you lifetime access to that totally for free, just because you're going through the academy and you're coming from here. So like I said, I will leave a special link below where you can get access to all this stuff, where you can invest in yourself and change your life forever. Like I said, I'm not putting this anywhere else. It's only here, and it's going to be in the podcast show notes. And if you have any other questions, never hesitate to reach out to myself or my team. You can always, I'll leave contact info below there as well. But otherwise, like I said, guys, I appreciate you. And whether you buy the course or not, whether you invest in yourself or not, I want you to know that the answer to all of your problems is the inner game, is diving and going all in on you and your inner foundation. And that's it. So I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I will talk to you next time.